Hi guys, Aka here. So, we have Mr. Francis Drake, the latest siege general that was released in Evony. Now, in this Regatta Storica event, there wasn't really much that came out, okay? It was a pretty chilled event following the major events that we had last week. But Francis Drake is an interesting addition that Evony brought out. So, we want to take a look at him, okay? See how well he does and see how he stacks up against the other competition that we have in the game. So let's hop right in. We have Francis Drake here in all his glorious swag, all right? And we look at his main skill. Now, for his main skill, he gets attack 55%, defense 40%, and HP 55%. All right? And he's a when leading the army general. So you can use him in practically all situations. Now, if we move to his specialties, by the time we take everything in his specialties and put it together, Francis comes out with a total of 75% attack, 60% defense, and 60% HP. Alrighty. Now we move to his ascension. When we take all the stats in his ascension together, Francis comes out with a total of 60% attack, 65% defense, and 75% HP. Okay. Now, we put all of those stats together. Mr. Francis Drake comes out with a total of 190% attack, 165% defense, and 190% HP. Okay, good stuff. Now, let's put him up against some tough competition and see how well he does. Okay, so these are the guys that we're going to be comparing Francis to, right? And these are their stats. Now, as you can see from the attack, yeah, he's not doing too bad, okay? Not particularly great when you compare him to the other three generals. He is doing better than Theobald, but falling a bit behind Stephen and Romulus, which I guess to an extent is to be expected. Romulus was the main general that was released for Siege a while ago. So yeah, he's still rocking it tops for the attack there. For the defense and the HP though, Francis Drake is doing very well. Okay, very well, very respectable stats in comparison to the other ones. Particularly the HP. He has monstrous HP when compared to a lot of the other siege generals that we have in the game. So that's the good stuff that he's got going for him there. Okay, now we move from this and we go and check out their march sizes, right? Now, for these generals, these are the march sizes that we have. And as you can see, Francis, yeah, march size is okay, but not quite on par with the other generals that we're looking at, okay? He's falling a bit behind there on the march size. It's not bad, but, not particularly great either. So, that's how Francis does when you put him up against tough competition. Now, we want to take a deeper dive to look at him, so we'll look at his covenant. Alright, so we have his covenant here, and these are the generals that he needs for his covenant. In my opinion, a pretty decent selection. I don't anticipate anyone having serious difficulty getting any of these generals, but I guess it is possible. Okay, now we look at the covenant on its own, right? Down here, he gets the march size, 10%, which is the only march size that he gets, all right? And we look at the other stats. It's okay, not too bad. Interestingly, though, he does have a couple reinforcing stats in there. So maybe giving you the inclination that, he might work well as a reinforcing general. All right, that's fine. We take it for what it is. So that's it for his covenant. Now, we want to take a look at his compatibility. And as usual, we'll check out his compatibility with the skill books. So I have my copy of Francis Drake right here, right? And we go into the skill books. We want to check for siege attack. That's siege attack right there. We click it. Okay, he's good for siege attack. Scroll down a bit, look for the siege defense. Here we go. Siege defense, he's good. Come down, look for siege HP, Siege HP is a go. Okay. And we check out the march size right here. March size is good as well. So Francis Drake can take all the siege books that we have in the game. That's good stuff. Right. Now, we want to check his compatibility with other generals. So we come out, okay, come over here as we usually do. Right. So we have Francis here. And the first general that we're going to check his compatibility with is Mu Qinying. And as we can see, Francis and Mu are compatible. However, we notice that one of the skill books on Mu is grayed out. Okay, that's this one right here. So let's switch them around and see how it looks. All right, so we have both of them here, and we can see that the skill book is interfering with their compatibility. That skill book is the siege defense book. Okay, so it would mean that Francis will have to have the siege defense book if you want to ensure compatibility. Okay, so we keep that in mind. The next general that we're going to check his compatibility with is Gunther. And as we can see, Francis and Gunther are compatible. Good stuff. Okay, now moving on, we check his compatibility with Stephen. Okay, Francis and Stephen are a go. This is a very good combination in my opinion. Both of them are when leading the army generals, so this is a strong one. All right, now the next general that we have, Hunyadi. Okay, so we see Francis and Hunyadi are compatible. That's great. Then we see that Francis and Romulus are compatible. Okay, that's a good one. All in all, Francis has decent compatibility, at least based on what we've seen. And as usual, if you know of any combinations that Francis works with or doesn't work with, please feel free to drop them in the comments. As always, it's always helpful, it's always appreciated. Thank you very much. Right, so that's checking out Francis as the main general. Let's take a look at how he does when he's the assistant. So we have the stats for the prominent assistants here. And just by the look of things, Francis is doing pretty well. Okay, he's doing pretty good. Now, I want to first highlight the march sizes before I talk about the main skills, because this is going to be important, when we're going through the verdict on Francis. Okay, he's not particularly the best on march sizes, but, he's not too bad. Okay, so if you wanted to use Francis as an assistant, that's something that you'd have to factor in, depending on who you already have as your assistant. Okay, now if we move back to the stats, we can see that Francis is doing very well on the stats. Okay, doing decently enough. Romulus and Hercilia are a cut above when it comes to the attack stats, but as we said earlier, the defense and the HP is where Francis is really strong. And in my opinion, I think he's doing very well in comparison there. Okay? So, all in all, Francis is an okay assistant. So, with all that said and done, the verdict on Francis Drake is that he's a decent general. Okay? And I highlight the word decent. He's not the best, but he's not the worst. Okay, so that's good. If you wanted to use him as an attacking siege general, whether as the main general or as the assistant, he's a good option if you don't have any of the top options available. But if you do, there'll really be no need for you to switch to Francis Drake. Now, based on his stats and the fact that he's a when leading the army general, I think where Francis is going to be particularly strong is in his specialized usage. So, if you wanted to use him as a reinforcing general, this one is 2 thumbs up in my opinion. I think he is very strong as a reinforcing general. And in fact, when you compare him to the other when leading the army siege generals that we have, in my opinion, I think Francis is at the top of the group. Okay? So, if you are in search of a reinforcing general, right now, Francis is your go-to guy. You might need to close your eye a bit towards the march size aspect, but aside from that, I think he's doing pretty good. Now, the other specialized use that you might have for Francis Drake is if you wanted to use him as a wall general, particularly if you're looking to get siege buffs. Now, in my opinion, Francis would be awesome as a wall general. His siege stats are significantly good, and all around, he will be a solid wall general. If you wanted to use him as the main, lots of his stats are combination of range and siege, okay? So you will get some dual buffs there, but, you'd be lacking on all the non-siege troop buffs. So you need to take that into consideration. However, if you wanted to use him as an assistant, based on what I've seen so far, I think Francis right now is the top general to use for assistant when you are trying to boost your siege buffs. His particular strong suit is with the HP. In comparison to all the other siege generals that we use for assistants, I think Francis has the highest HP that you can get in the game right now. So, in my opinion, Francis Drake, if you need siege buffs for your defense, the top assistant to go to right now. Alright, now if Francis is not really your thing and you were interested in checking out other reviews for siege generals, you can check out this video here where we have comparisons of other siege generals for you to look at. But that's it for Francis, and that's it for Aka. Thank you guys very much. Aka signing out.